Hey guys, Desolator Magic here, back with some more spoilers from the so far pretty good looking Throne of Eldraine set. And I've got to say, they really seem to be following the golden rule of card spoilers, which is, you're not truly doing home improvements unless your crack's hanging out, especially plumbing. Oh, nope, I was reading the wrong golden rule. This one's leak a bunch of crap in foreign languages. So let's start with what is, I hope, called Bear Suplex. I mean, that's a bear, and he's doing a suplex. I can't imagine that would possibly be mistranslated. There have been, I want to say at least 2 references to the card Bear Punch, which is not the real name. I think it's called Savage Punch, but everybody just calls it Bear Punch. And I think it's pretty safe to say this is the third one, because that card, the artwork, and just the dude punching the bear and like his tongue sticking out, it's just too funny. Like, people just absolutely loved it. So they've brought back callbacks to it, and now they've taken it to like the ridiculous memeified, memorific meme levels. And they got a bro out there just in the woods suplexing a bear. Oh, by the way, dropping a suplex on an unusual and inappropriate target is also a meme, so they're kind of taking two and mixing them together. So anyway, what this card actually does is it's a 4-cost green sorcery, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control, then it fights with another creature you don't control, which is by itself overcosted and under good, but it has Adamant. If at least 3 green mana was spent to cast the spell, that creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn, so it can't lose the fight. But the whole point is you got to take out the opponent. And there have been force fights that cost 2 that are good, 3 that are good, and there have been ones that cost 2 and 3 and drop more counters than that. Or I should say an attack and toughness bonus until end of turn bigger than that. So, I don't know. 4 really is a lot. But if it comes down to this being one of the only force fight or pseudo force fights in the game after rotation, yeah, I think people will play it. So next up, we've got a card that might say Garen Brigg Paladin. It's a 5-cost creature, Giant Knight, which is kind of funny because we have regular size and small knights, and now we have giant ones. Why not? And it has Adamant, of course. If at least 3 green mana was spent to cast the spell, Garen Brigg Paladin enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. So that would make it a 5/5 for 5, which is probably what it should have been in the first place. And then Garen Brigg Paladin cannot be blocked by creatures with power less than or equal to 2. I really don't like that effect. It was annoying on something from Amonkhet, and it's been annoying on Steelleaf Champion. This thing's basically a 5/5. Just let me chump block it and buy myself some time. That's kind of a basic tenet of Magic. In fact, another basic tenet of Magic from the color red is if you want something to not be able to block, you have to pay something to do it. You have to tap something or pay mana or pay life. So getting this ability perpetually for free is very annoying. I don't like this at all. Next up, we finally get to see the card behind this wonderful artwork that was leaked a long time ago by who knows who. And it's Emry, Lurker of the Loch. Maybe. It's a 3-cost blue 1/2 legendary creature merfolk wizard. This spell costs 1 or cast. They mistranslated this. It's supposed to say the spell casts. See, now I'm saying it the way they wrote it. Does anybody at this website proofread anything? Anyway, this spell costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control. Steel Overseer, his brother Steel Overseer Jr., and the stupid untappy clock piece of shit. Oh my gosh, artifacts are going to be toxic as hell. And now we've got pseudo enchantability and affinity for artifact cards. That deck is losing an enormous amount of artifact support, but it doesn't matter. It's still going to be so toxic. Well, it's not looking good for today's spoilers anyway. When Emry, Lurker of the Loch, enters battlefield, put the top 4 cards of your library into your graveyard. So we got graveyard synergy with artifact synergy with merfolk in a control color. Could this get worse? Yes, there's actually more words. If you tap it, choose target artifact card in your graveyard, you may cast that card this turn. Well, you have to actually pay the cost for it, so I mean, that's actually pretty fair. I mean, yeah, stuff a bunch of artifacts into the graveyard, and then if you're lucky, you can cast some of them as if they were drawn into your hand, like maybe, but then you have to tap this, and it only has 2 toughness. It actually seems like a fair card. I just don't like the idea of blue, colorless artifact hybrid decks right now. They look like they're already kind of getting out of control. This card, very appropriate, but the deck as a whole, it's really coming together, and I really don't like it. Next up, Lochmere Serpent. It has flash. It's a 7/7 for 6, and if you pay 1 blue, sacrifice an island. It can't be blocked this turn. If you pay 1 black, then sacrifice a swamp. You gain 1 life and draw a card. Oh, that's a nice ability. And by the way, you can do that multiple times. Yeah. And then if you pay 1 of each, you can exile 5 target cards from an opponent's graveyard, always a positive thing, wiping out somebody's graveyard because graveyard strategies are degenerate, and then return Lochmere Serpent from your graveyard to your hand. So obviously you can only activate this when it's in your graveyard, I assume, and then activate this ability only anytime you would cast a sorcery. So I don't like giant creatures that keep coming back over and over and over. But, I mean, if you don't have 5 cards to target, you can't do it. So this is more like a limited resurrection than an actual way to clear your opponent's graveyard. The fact that it only costs 2, though, is just utterly ridiculous. I mean, it's nowhere near the Scorpion God, but damn, this thing's gonna be annoying. So next up, yay, more foreign translated stuff that hopefully is correct. Greedy Impulse, maybe. It's 4-cost, hybrid, black-blue. And sorcery speed, target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card in that player's hand or graveyard and exile it. For as long as that card remains exiled, you may cast it, and you may spend mana as though it were any color to cast it. So this is just like Duress, Thoughtseize, Divest, Thought Erasure is probably more accurate. And then it's kind of mixed with the ability of Thief of Sanity, although you're hand-picking it out of their entire hand, not the top 3 cards of their library. So I've got to say, 4 is a lot. Sorcery speed, I mean, duh. Any kind of hand disruption or discard has to happen at sorcery speed. There are very, very few exceptions to that rule in the entire history of Magic. But, I mean, you could take their best card and then be able to cast it. I mean, Hostage Taker does this, and that's popular. Thief of Sanity does this, and it's popular. If the decks get slow enough and nothing too fast is in the meta, you would probably find this in quite a few decks. Otherwise, if 4-cost gets suppressed by a bunch of, Red Rush Blitz crap, nah, too slow. Next up, Feasting Troll King. Oh my gosh, that's quad green. I can't wait to see what degenerate horseshit this is. It's a 7/6 creature, not legendary. Oh, here we go, Troll Noble. Vigilance and Trample, because of course it does. Cost 6 total, by the way, so, I mean, a Vigilance Trample 7/6 for 6 is not, unheard of, but when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, create 3 food tokens, so, okay. And then sacrifice 3 foods, I wonder where you get those. Return Feasting Troll King from your graveyard to the battlefield, activate this ability only during your turn, so that's just fantastic. I don't like finally getting rid of one giant threat with a triple block or with my last kill spell and then having it immediately come back into play. That is extremely annoying. I mean, at least it's not automatic and free like Rekindling Phoenix. That card never should have been printed, let alone anything that even resembles the Scorpion God, one of the worst cards ever printed in the history of the game. So you can bring him back exactly once unless you're doing an all-food deck. So, I mean, yeah, you could just Vigilance and Trample, just Suicide Blitz, swing away every turn. Who cares what happens to him? And then maybe get a little bit more cautious and conservative the second time that he's in play. So, not outrageously overpowered, not absolutely terrible game ruining, but it is going to be annoying. A lot of annoying mechanics in today's spoilers, and I'm not liking it. Still infinitely more fair of a card than Carnage Tyrant. Carnage Tyrant can right off, okay? That card can go straight back to hell. Next up, we've got Clack Bridge Troll, of course a reference to the troll under the Billy Goat's Bridge. This is a 5-cost creature troll with 8/8 trample and haste. Hello! And then when it enters the battlefield, target opponent creates 3 0/1 white goat creature tokens. Everybody knows goat creatures are the most powerful in the entire game. Look up Trading Post. Anyway, at the beginning of combat on your turn, any opponent may sacrifice a creature. If a player does, tap Clackbridge Troll, you gain 3 life, and you draw a card. Wow, today's theme really is unbelievably annoying mechanics that just piss off your opponents. So you give them some very offensively poor goats, and then if they want to stop you from attacking, all they have to do is give you 3 life and a free card. That's ridiculous. It should have just been sack a goat, tap it, leave it at that. I don't know why they felt the need to give the person a free card and 3 life. That's ridiculous. So I hate everything about this already. Next up, Robber of the Rich. It's a 2/2 for 2 red mythic. Is this finally the long-awaited for garbage red mythic? Because remember, every set in the entire history of the game has had a garbage red mythic in it, and we haven't seen it yet. So this says Reach, Haste. Well, a 2/2 with Reach is pretty damn pointless, and honestly a 2/2 with Haste is pretty damn pointless too. So we're off to a good start, and then whenever Robber of the Rich attacks, if defending player has more cards in hand than you, It should say the owner of this card, not you. They're getting really lazy with these pronoun references. Anyway, exile the top card of their library. During any turn you attacked with a rogue, you may cast that card and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast that spell. So it's just Thief of Sanity, but weird and more restricted and not flying. Well, it's the same as that guy where it says every time he attacks, draw a card. I mean, you're going to attack with this a grand total of 1 time. And then your stupid 2/2 is going to die. I wouldn't even bother putting this in a feather deck because why? So, I mean, I'm not saying it's not kind of neat, but, I mean, are you really going to build a rogue deck around just this guy? No. It's still free cards, it's still kind of card advantage, but it only works if they have card advantage over you, in which case you're going to need something better to turn around the game, something like Mind Rot, or like an X-Proof Creature, a Giant Flyer or something. That'll shut down somebody who has way more cards than you. So, I don't know, I think this is pretty useless. You've got the unreliability of them having more cards than you, and then you have the unreliability of not having attacked with a rogue. I will say if you drop them in at the right time on the right turn, you're going to get away with it once. Exactly 1 time. The whole set of triggers. But other than that, at least it's not an on-hit ability, but wow, this is not a good card. Next up, got another French card. It's Piste des Miettes or something like that. Okay, seriously, French people. I could have sworn that the word of was du. What's all this day crap, okay? Y'all stealing that from Spanish, and that's not cool. Stay in your lane, you cigarette-smoking, striped-shirted, baguette-carrying, Eiffel Tower admirers. Anyway, this is Trail of Breadcrumbs. Of course, a Hansel and Gretel reference, if I'm not mistaken. I very well could be. And it's an enchantment. It says it's a 2-cost, by the way. And when Trail of Breadcrumbs enters battlefield, create a food token. Fantastic. And then whenever you sacrifice a food, you may pay 1. If you do, look at the top 2 cards of your library. You may reveal a permanent card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Okay, this is good. This is like the pinnacle key card of a food deck, to the extent that Wild Growth Walker was like the card for Explorer. That ability is insane. I still think that like Beast Whisper is just a better card, but for 2 as an enchantment, a lot harder to get rid of. I think this is fantastic. And at least it's not free. If it was a free ability, that would be ridiculous. Next up, we've got, I'm just going to say du, screw you, Paris du Quereau or something like that. Maybe it's Quereau. Quereau would be E-A-U-X, all of which are silent because French is stupid. So anyway, this is a Curious Pair, I guess probably also referring to Hansel and Gretel. And FYI, I do believe there's a movie coming out, a new Hansel and Gretel remake, but they're calling it, I think like Gretel and Hansel or something. And look it up. It's rather odd. Anyway, this particular card is a Human Peasant, Peasant Tribal for Life. And it's a 2-cost 1/3. And it just has flavor text, so it's just a vanilla 1/3 for 2, which, okay, whatever. You know, defensive card. I'd rather have a 0/4 wall then. But its adventure ability is a sorcery speed 1-cost, and it just says create a food token, which, according to the art, Hansel is going to eat. And by the way, they should have made the kids mutants or something, or like half plant people or something, where every time you sacrifice a food, they get a 1/1 counter because they like get bigger until they're like monstrous size. That would have been awesome. It wouldn't really follow the fairy tale at all, but it would have made sense. I mean, I don't know if y'all know your history, but in like, I don't know, 12th century Germany and England and wherever the hell else these are from, they theorized that like humans grow taller and faster these days because of the availability of food versus peasant life. I could literally go on foot to the grocery store and walk out in about 5 minutes with a fully cooked prepared chicken. So yes, if you finally give your peasant children some food, they should immediately start growing, you know, mutants or otherwise. But no, unfortunately, they just create food. Which actually, if you think about it, I think this card's a little darker than they intended, because it's like, back in those days, they would just force the peasant children to work on the farm instead of go to school. So like, why would peasant children create 1 food? It's because they're working on a farm creating 1 food, and they're illiterate. Jeez, wizards, y'all getting dark with these. Okay, I'm having way too much fun with this card. Let's move on to Barretto Rosso Cavalcadonali. What language even is this? Oh, Italian. I don't do Italian. I'll eat it, but I don't know how to pronounce it. So this is apparently Weaselback Redcap. I don't see it, but I'll take your word for it. I know Rosso is red. Anyway, this is just 1/1 for 1, and if you pay 2, it gets +2/+0 till end of turn. But it doesn't have Mentor, which means it's worse than that goblin, but that's fine. That thing was overpowered as all hell. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Goblin Banneret, which unfortunately is actually still legal. I mean, even after rotation. Next up, we've got Wildborn Preserver, another either very large fox or very small knight or fairy. I don't know, it says elf archer, but I don't know if elves can be fairies. Probably not, who knows. And it's a 2/2 for 2 with flash and reach. And then whenever another non-human creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay X. When you do, put X/1/1 counters on Wildborn Preserver. Holy crap. I never thought these words would come out of my mouth, but this is pretty much Hero of Lena Tower, but better, which had Heroic X. This is easier to trigger with the exact same effect and exact same payment. This is crazy. Why couldn't they have just simply said non-human, non-token? What would have been so wrong with them excluding tokens so that you can't just triple token dump and, oh look, here we go. I mean, it is limited by the amount of mana you can put into it, and it's putting all your eggs in one basket, and it says 0 evasion, but you really only got to hit them once or twice after you jack this thing way up, and then there's Proliferate on top of it. So, in a flood deck, I mean, the flood decks right now, with the cards you've seen so far, and cards that aren't rotating from Selesnya, you can already absolutely knock somebody on their ass. And we've got, 200 more cards to go? Oh, and then 3 more entire sets after this, all of which might support flood and token dump. I have the strangest feeling they might have to ban this. I mean, it doesn't have trample. You could chump it forever. It doesn't seem that good, but being able to get something bigger than a Tarmogoyf in a very similar amount of time from a standard time frame comparison, that's kind of messed up. I mean, imagine if Gigantosaurus, which was a 10/10 for 5, cost 2. Because that's pretty close to how this is going to function. And then on top of it, it has reach. But it doesn't have vigilance. I will say, though, that flash pretty much is just haste. You flash this in during your opponent's end step, then during your next turn, dump in every creature and token you can possibly come up with, including but not limited to that ooze that can clone itself, and then just swing with a 10/10. I mean, that's 1/2 turn to respond to that. That's ridiculous. Unless, of course, your opponent has one single creature, in which case they can chump block. And if they have 3 creatures, they could buy themselves 3 turns in theory. If this had trample, I'd be calling for it to get banned right now, but I think it's on the watch list. Next up, we've got Hypnotic Sprite. It's a flying 2/1 for 2 double blue, and then it's Mesmeric Glare is an instant speed adventure for 3. Counter a target spell with converted mana cost 3 or less. See, I don't like stuff with limitations. If I'm going to pay 3 for a counter spell, it damn well better be cancel or better. But, if I could cast any fairy from my hand, and I'm not really picky about which because everything's boosted and who cares, I might leave this be the last one I cast and then maybe be able to hit him with the glare. So if you just consider it a fairy plus with a maybe potential long shot counterspell instead of, oh, I'm adding this as my counterspell, I think you'll get a little more mileage out of it that way. Next up, we've got Roving Keep. I have no idea what fairy tale this is from. If anything, it's from a Japanese anime or that one crappy movie. But yeah, it's a 5/7 for 7, and it has Defender. And if you pay 7, it gets +2 and gains Trample until end of turn. It can attack this turn as though it didn't have Defender. So you got to pay 7 to bring it in, and then it can only block, which, I mean, it can kill anything it blocks. I mean, it's a 5/7, wow. But then if you pay 7 again, which you probably have, it's a 7/7 Trampler. Well, normally I'd say, well, that's kind of neat. It's kind of interesting. Maybe you could draft it. I don't know. But Steel Overseer. Now this went from interesting novelty to holy crap, this is broken. And it isn't. It's just there's at least 2 or 3 different cards that can repeatedly, for free or consistently, drop counters onto artifact creatures. So by definition, basically every artifact creature that's vaguely playable is now overpowered. So they're really going to have to ban Steel Overseer. I don't know what kind of lunatic at Wizards thought it was a good idea to reprint that, but they have lost their damn minds. So next up, we've got Searing Barrage. It's a 5-cost instant, and Searing Barrage deals 5 damage to target creature. And then Adamant, if at least 3 red mana was spent to cast a spell, it deals 3 damage to that creature's controller. It's still a little overcosted. I mean, isn't there that M20 card or whatever? Something about Ashes, deals 5 for not much. I mean, the bonus 3 is cool, mono red cool, but 5 for 5 at instant speed, it's not terrible, but it's also not Banefire. Yeah, I don't know about this one. We'll see if anybody plays it. Next up, Sir Kara the Bold, or Cider, I don't know. Who knows? They spelled it wrong, and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. They offset, in my opinion. But this is the old pronunciation and the old spelling. I don't care. Shut up. Spell it S-I-R. This is 2019. So anyway, 3/3 for 5, legendary creature, Human Knight. Human Knight, by the way, is my favorite promotional knight at the bowling alley. And whenever Sir Kara the Bold or an instant or sorcery spell you control deals damage to a player, exile the top card of your library, you may play that card this turn because Experimental Frenzy wasn't f***ed up enough. Stop giving red free cards. Stop it. Stop doing that, Wizards. What the hell is your problem? This is a blue ability. You are giving red blue abilities. Red does fast, unstoppable damage. That is what they do. The downside to red is that they run out of cards really damn easily. The whole thing about blue is that their creatures are garbage and their counterspells are amazing and their control magic is amazing, but on top of it, they can make up for the fact that their creatures are garbage by drawing tons of cards. What happens when you combine them is the Experimental Frenzy bullshit red rush crap that we had right now. So this is just a burn enabler. The only upside about this is the 3/3 is basically unusable in combat. It has no evasion, no hexproof, nothing. And a 5 cost anything in a red burn deck is just never going to happen. But then they had to go and add tap. Sir Asshole here deals 1 damage to any target, and then you immediately get to draw a card. So basically, tap this creature and draw a card. Oh, and your opponent takes 1 damage. Really? Free card draw while dealing unblockable damage? That's ridiculous. What the hell was Wizards thinking? What about this even seems like a good, fun, or fair card? This is not how you do recurring draw triggers, and this is not how you cost them, and this is not the color that you put them in. So moving on from this absolute atrocity, Claim the Firstborn. It's a 1-cost sorcery, and Rumpelstiltskin reference, by the way. Gain control of target creature with converted mana cost 3 or less until end of turn. Untap that creature, gains haste until end of turn. So it's active treason, but you can only steal stuff that sucks. Pay 1 more mana for an actual active treason and steal something that's actually good, that you can actually commit a war crime with. Next up, Worthy Knight. It's a 2-cost rare 2/2. So it should be good, and looks like it is. So whenever you cast a Knight spell, create a 1/1 white human creature token, which is strangely not a Knight. It would be pretty messed up if it was, though, because every time you bring in a 2/2 Knight, getting another 2/2 Knight, which I believe is what the Knight token is, that would basically just be double strike. You can't just across the board double up the combat power of a deck. That would be pretty messed up. I mean, the inverse is true when you look at Infect. You can't just tell people, oh, now you don't have to do 20 damage, you have to do 11 or 10 or whatever the rule is. If anybody tries to play Infect against me, I just threaten them until they put the deck away. Anyway, yeah, this is just a flood card, obviously. Now, you gotta go Knights or it does next to nothing. So Knights with a couple flood benefiting cards, I don't know. Tough to say what this will actually go in. Awfully cheap for limitless creature creation, though. Next up, we've got Charming Prince. It's a 2-cost 2/2 human noble. I gotta say, nobles versus peasants. Peasants gonna win every time. Sorry, guys. Nobles suck. Peasants forever. Anyway, when Charming Prince enters the battlefield, choose 1. Scry 2. You gain 3 life. Or exile another target creature you control. Return to the, so in other words, flicker a creature. Oh, but it comes back at the end step, so delayed flicker. So little enter the battlefield enabler, 3 life, welcome to white, or scry 2. This is just good. The problem is he's still a 2/2 vanilla for 2 otherwise, so he's a 1 and done, but, human, okay, you might get a human deck going. Noble, okay. It's possible. I think if people go tribal heavy to that extent with either one of these, yeah, you'll definitely see this card. Next up, Outlaw's Merriment. I'm starting to think Robin Hood is in this set. I don't know. Anyway, it's an enchantment, a mythic, and it's double white, single red, single generic. That's weirdly specific. I'm sure that indicates that the power level of this is absolutely insane. So you drop this into play. It's not an aura, but it does affect you. So at the beginning of your upkeep, choose 1 at random. Create a red and white creature token with those characteristics. Once again, pronoun reference confusion. This could have been worded literally any other way and it would have made more sense. First of all, choose 1 at random is not, you're not choosing. Randomly select one of the following. And then secondly, what do you mean those characteristics? You mean with the characteristics of the selected mode? With the accompanying characteristics, with the matching characteristics? They could have phrased this any other way. What kind of idiot proofread these? Seriously, I'm starting to think nobody would be the answer. So it'll randomly either be a 3/1 human warrior with trample and haste, hello, a 2/1 human cleric with lifelink and haste, or a 1/2 human rogue with haste, and when this creature enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to any target. Really, you couldn't give it a looter ability? Come on. So for 4 mana, you get an army in a box. Cool. None of them are knights, so I don't know what deck this is supposed to go in, but okay. Wouldn't be Selesnya Flood when you got the red mixed in there, so that's out. I mean, I like this. I just don't know what you're supposed to put it in. I think after we see more spoilers, this might become more clear. I mean, it is human. I'm kind of starting to see a pattern here. Let's just say I don't think knights will be the subtype that a knight's deck will actually fully target. So next up we got Skull Knocker Ogre, a 4/3 for 4, and whenever it deals combat damage, or whenever it deals damage to an opponent, combat or otherwise, that player discards a card at random. If the player does, they draw a card. Wow, it might benefit them and it might harm them, or it might double benefit them. Wow, what an absolutely, truly, and sincerely pointless card. And finally, we have Return from Clouds. This is a 4-cost green instant, and it says, put target card from your graveyard to your hand. I don't think that's translated correctly. And put another target card from your graveyard to the top of your library, then exile Return from Clouds. So we have a card virtually identical to this, but I think it's black or whatever, and people don't play that, so whatever. But Adamant! If at least 3 green mana was spent to cast a spell, put these cards into your hand, I guess both of them into your hand, and then exile Return from Clouds. So 1 on top of your library, 1 into your hand, or if it's triple green, then both into your hand. I'm all about recycling, but I don't like burning my next draw step just to do it, so yeah, like I said, I'm pretty sure there's like a black card in M20 or something that does this and nobody plays it, so I don't know. 4 seems a little high. So I did say this is the final card, but we do have one that's unconfirmed, to say the least. Meet Kenrith, the Returned King, allegedly. It's a 5-cost legendary creature, human noble, mythic, and if you pay 1 red, oh, he's a 5/5 by the way. If you pay 1 red, all creatures gain trample and haste until end of turn. I doubt that this is real. If you pay 1 and a green, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. Really? You didn't want to go with every creature you control for 2 as a repetitive ability? Really? You decided to be real with this one? If you pay 3 total with white, why are these getting more expensive but shittier? Target player gains 5 life. I could make all kinds of comments about that, but anyway. If you pay 3 and a blue for 4 total, target player draws a card, okay? And then if you pay 5 total, including 1 black, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under its owner's control. This better not be a real card. It just better not. This is completely f***ed. So I'm somewhat skeptical, but then again, this is Wizards of the Coast we're talking about, so anything's possible. So giving all your creatures trample and haste for 1 mana. They think that's appropriate. And I've got to say, I mean, if you've got 10 mana available in green, which, I mean, you're obviously playing 5 colors if you're playing this guy, you could just drop 5 counters among stuff you own. That's a little much. I mean, you should probably have made these all tap abilities, whoever designed this. The recurring card draw could be pretty easily abused because you don't have to untap them, you could just light it off again. And then unlimited Rise from the Grave for 5. That seems a little messed up too, but like I said, you gotta run 5 color to make this guy work, so maybe they were stupid enough to run this. But let me just say, Commander? I mean, all these spoiler videos are in the context of standard, but gee, you think somebody might put this on the front of their 5 color deck? I wonder. I don't understand why that Trample Haste one isn't the 5 cost, and I don't know, these all should be rearranged, they all should be tap abilities, and they get shittier and more expensive as you go. That doesn't make sense. So this is a terribly unbalanced, terribly designed card that makes no sense. Why is it even white? Meaning it's either a fake or a disastrously, stupidly, poorly designed card from Wizards. I mean, in 3-color Knights, I'm pretty sure you could kick the crap out of people with this and just ignore the 2 extra colors. But maybe that's what they're counting on, so wow. I mean, even in just white, just ignore everything that's not white on this card. Put it in a mono white deck. Okay, you've got an unlimited source of 5 life. If you have 6 mana, you can gain 10 life per turn, no limit. Yeah, he has 0 evasion, but damn. So I guess we'll see if this is a real legitimate leak or not. It's not an official spoiler as far as I know. We'll see. Maybe it'll get confirmed. Maybe it won't. I don't know. In the meantime, it's not on a lot of the more respectable websites. So, yeah, take that for what it will. And it's a cropped cell phone shot. That is highly suspicious. So anyway, that's it for today's spoilers. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to go take your belt off and do some home improvements. And I'll see you guys next video.